and gentlemen, my name is Aaron Blade, and I'm the editor, creator, and producer of what you're watching right now, Blade Talk. If you are new here, welcome, and you find this presentation helpful, informative, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. I always appreciate all the support that I am given. So I recently did a presentation on why I left Orthodox Judaism in favor of conservative Judaism, and that prompted a lot of responses, comments, emails, etc. But one question in particular kept coming up. And that is, well, Reform and conservative, the progressive movements of Judaism, allows gays, trans, etc., when the Torah explicitly condemns that lifestyle. So I wanted to go over my views on the LGBTQIA community and my feelings about it. So if you're interested, let's hit that intro and let's begin. Okay, so before we begin, this comes with one huge caveat, and that is if your opinion and interpretation of Leviticus chapter 18, verse 22, we all know the verse, is clear and uncut to you, and you're just here to bash Jews for the way that they choose to live their life, then I invite you to turn this presentation off now. I'm not going to change your mind, nor do I want to. Okay, for the rest of us, the first thing that I want to say about this topic is that remember that the Torah prohibits an act. It doesn't actually condemn someone's sexual orientation. It prohibits an action. It is important to understand that the Torah challenges us to rise above our nature. If one has a desire to eat pork, shellfish, steal, etc., the Torah challenges us to become better. We see this the other way around as well. Abraham was considered one of the kindest human beings on earth, yet God tested him and wanted him to act cruelly to his son. That was the whole point of God telling Abraham to sacrifice his son and why Abraham was rewarded and blessed. In other words, it is natural to express anger and want to harm someone when you feel that emotion. It is perfectly natural to get jealous when someone else gets married or gets a house or a car. It is natural under certain circumstances to drink in excess, eat in excess. When we discover that we have a natural inclination, that only helps us get to know our starting point. It doesn't limit who we could become. Every single person whom you admire without exception transcended his or her nature in some significant way, and that is why you admire them. The Torah tells you that you can become more than what your natural inclination is, and that is how you are judged. Each person's desires are different. For example, if we take lobster or crab meat, I know that it is against Torah and not kosher to eat it. That being said, it isn't a desire that I have to eat it. I personally think lobsters and crabs are hideous, the ugliest creatures I've ever seen. So will I be judged by not eating lobsters or crab? No. There is no temptation or desire to eat it, so it's simple for me to obey that commandment. Look at pork. Again, another animal I think is gross. They eat everything, and I would never want to consume that in my body, so is that a true challenge for me? No. However, when it comes to mixing meat and dairy, I admit to you all right here and now that I miss the mark very often. I ask for forgiveness and I pray for wisdom because I don't know how one gets from the Torah command, don't cook a calf in his mother's milk, to the separation of meat and dairy. So I missed the mark on that. The point that I'm trying to make to everyone is that everyone has a natural inclination. Most of the time, it comes in the form of anger because someone doesn't do what you want them to do. It is your choice to act upon that anger. That's natural. The Torah challenges you not to. The Torah states don't hold grudges or take revenge. It happens often between white people and black people, the more fortunate, the less fortunate, the rich and the poor. That jealousy forms inside of us. The rich person has all the wealth that the poor person wants. Black people talk about white privilege and wants the same benefits of being white. Yet the Torah commands you to rise above this inclination. It states, do not covet what your neighbors possess. If you are focused on yourself and what God has in store for you, then you learn to be happy for others instead of upset that you aren't getting the same thing they are. Read the story of Cain and Abel. It will highlight the fact that jealousy causes people to act in unspeakable ways. I start off with this because you will always have someone judging others and saying things like, it isn't that hard to give up pork, shellfish, homosexual behavior, etc., etc. There's always that one in the comment sections or on social media acting as if they have it all figured out. We each have our own demons to battle. Yes, something may not be desirable for you, and you don't understand why others have that desire, but it doesn't mean that you should condemn them for it. Try to understand where they're coming from. Getting to today's topic, yes, it is clear the Torah is very pro-heterosexual. It is considered to be kadosh, which we translate as holy. It is great, it's fantastic, it's ideal. In fact, the name for heterosexual marriage in Hebrew is kedushin, from the word kadosh, which means holy. Another thing to note is that lesbian sexual relations between women is never described as holy. Finally, male homosexual activity is explicitly forbidden. The way I approach this is the way I approach most laws of the Torah. There are 3 different mindsets that someone could carry into anything that they are going to do, which is inconsistent with the Torah. The first mindset, and the most innocent of mindsets, is that sometimes a person is just overwhelmed by desire. They know what they're doing is wrong, but they do wrong every now and then. The second mindset is a person might be overwhelmed by desire consistently. Now, this person doesn't reject God's existence or deny the Torah. They're not rebelling against God. It is just that he or she is facing a really tough test. A test so tough that for whatever reason, they don't pass it and continuously miss the mark, as I do with mixing meat and dairy. Again, to someone that keeps kosher 100%, they may judge me for it and say it's not that hard. I remind people that your road and temptations aren't going to be the same as others. You may have a temptation that I don't understand or have a desire for, but I won't make light of whatever that temptation is. The third mindset is a person that does something because of desire or even without desire just because it's forbidden. Just to demonstrate that he or she doesn't accept God's existence or they don't accept the divinity of the Torah. They will not be bound by any authority beyond themselves. Jewish law treats the first 2 mindsets very differently than the third, who is trying to deny God's existence or fight with God. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, one of the most brilliant modern halakhic authorities, he passed away now, but he stated, we are to thoroughly embrace the first 2 mindsets, those people that are innocent. They are not trying to deny God or fight with God. They aren't denying the Torah or trying to tear down the authority of the Torah. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein stated that we are to embrace those individuals with the highest honors in a community. Keep in mind, this is an Orthodox rabbi. He stated we should call them up to the Torah for an aliyah, etc. He goes on to state that we should especially consider doing such things in a case where failing to do so could lead to terrible misunderstandings of our feelings towards them. It could lead to fights and people feeling rejected. It is very important that we embrace these Jews and make them feel a part of the community. Again, those that are not warring against God or rebelling against the Torah, they are just missing the mark, as we all do. Even the rabbis with the black hats and long white beards miss the mark. People make mistakes. A person who violates the verse prohibiting the act of homosexuality is no different than a person who violates driving to shul on Shabbos. Those are no different than the person who violates the Torah by gossiping about our friends and neighbors. These are all prohibited by the Torah. We are all, as Jews, trying to be better. When someone, either every now and then or even consistently, commits some sin against the Torah, but it is not done to fight with God or to deny God or the divinity of the Torah, that person should be embraced in our community. So that being said, it doesn't matter whether someone is gay or lesbian, whatever the case, we bring them into our communities and we love them and we even honor them. That is the responsibility of the community following the Torah, to rise above your natural inclination. You see, your natural inclination is to shame them, bash them, judge them, weaponize Leviticus chapter 18 verse 22 against them, etc. The Torah challenges you to love them and not gossip about them. On the other hand, homosexual Jews should conduct themselves just as heterosexual Jews should. Being in Jewish communities is about coming together for a common purpose. It is recognizing that purpose is a team effort. No one can make this world better individually. It takes the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy. Going to synagogue is vital for community connection, spiritual grounding, learning Jewish traditions, support, finding a sense of belonging, a break from daily life, and a place to grow in faith and ethics with others, connecting them to thousands of years of Jewish history and shared identity. This is another reason why I left Orthodoxy. The idea of separating men and women with a mechitza in worship spaces. Many believe that it is to protect a woman's modesty and allow men to focus easier. My thing is that if a man can't pray next to a woman without being overwhelmed with desire, then he has some serious issues he needs to discuss on someone's couch. If you happen to find a nice man or woman in shul, then I would think that that's a wonderful thing. You two will most likely already have the same values and beliefs, so you're already halfway there to making a successful relationship. So there is room in Judaism for homosexuals. You can be a religious Jew as a homosexual. You can be a religious Jew as you drive to shul and back on Shabbos. You can be a religious Jew as you eat pork, etc. I only caution people to try to overcome that inclination that you have and stay away from others that encourage you to war with God. I never have an issue with someone missing the mark as long as they are honest about it and they aren't doing it to war with God. If you're doing it to fight with God, or I see many of the Reformed Jews trying to deny the Torah's authority, then I don't want to be associated with those kind of people. The Torah challenges you to become something better and rise above your natural inclination. If you can't, then don't get frustrated with God or deny God. Just say, hey, I can't pass this test, and ask for forgiveness. Don't allow the sin to take control and get you so comfortable that you give in completely to it, and now you're justifying the sin by submitting to no one's authority but your own. That's a dangerous place to find yourself. The greatest version of you is the disciplined version of you. That is why the Torah is so special and why marriage is so special. It forces you to become something better and to take someone else's feelings into consideration. You rise above that selfish inclination that you just want to go through life alone and don't want to adhere to anyone's authority. It ultimately leads to depression when you confine yourself to just your own authority. You get trapped in your own mind. Your mind becomes a prison. So think of the Torah as a marriage contract with God. It challenges you to be better, the same way a marriage to your spouse does. Now, any woman or man doesn't expect their spouse to be 100% perfect 100% of the time. But them trying to please you and love you and go through day by day, each day with you, that means something so much more. The one other thing that I want to say on this subject is when it comes to the LGBTQ community, and this really goes for anything similar, ideologies, be very careful not to make your ideology your identity, because now it's not just an idea, it's you. I see many people fall into this trap. Ideas can be challenged and, in fact, should be challenged. That's how you grow. That's how you gain wisdom. However, when you define yourself as the ideology, you don't hear a disagreement. You hear an attack. You have taken on the ideology, and now no one can refute it without you taking it personally. What do you do when this happens? You create a bubble, a nice soft bubble where everyone agrees with you, uses the same words as you, hates the same people as you do, claps at the exact right moments that you do, and you will defend that bubble at all costs, even if it makes you sound stupid. If someone presents facts to you, because you have taken on the ideology as your identity, you will refute the facts and refuse to change your opinion. Always remember, an ideology can be wrong, but if you take it as your identity, then what you hear is you, not the ideology, are wrong. So you double down on it, louder, angrier, dumber, and that is how you end up defending nonsense. Not because it is true, but because without that ideology, you'd actually have to develop a personality and think for yourself. I have disagreed with the Orthodox, Reform, and even conservative ideologies, and I've watched as people got so offended. They took on the ideology as their identity. That is why I've always stated, you're a Jew. You may practice Reform, practice conservative, practice Orthodox, but those are ideologies. So when someone disagrees with you on the fact that you are Reform, Orthodox, or whatever, always remember that they are not attacking you. They are attacking the ideology or way of life. Some can't separate the two. Most people aren't one thing. For example, I am a conservative Jew. There are things that I disagree with the conservative movement on. There are things that I find myself agreeing with Orthodox on. There are things that I find myself agreeing with Reform on. I am a person that is an independent thinker, and I encourage you to do the same. The same with politics. If someone were to ask me, were you Republican or Democrat? It depends on the issue. It depends on the topic. There are some things that I'm conservative about. There are some things that I'm liberal about. I won't let you put me into a box. My identity isn't tied to any extreme ideology. And that is what I want to push on this platform. This is how I judge rabbis. Walk up to your rabbi, regardless of what movement they are, and ask them about the flaws in their movement. If you have a Reform rabbi, ask them where they disagree with the Reform movement. If you have an Orthodox rabbi, ask them where they disagree with the Orthodox movement. What do they disagree with within this ideology? If you have someone that gets offended or it says things like, I agree with everything that the movement says, then they have taken on that ideology as their identity. You don't have a teacher. You have a consensus machine that goes along with whatever the movement says. Human beings are good when we reason and think. Don't let anyone take that from you. Don't get stuck in an echo chamber. Find someone that challenges you because that's how you grow and become wise. Don't take an ideology as your identity. Remember, Rabbi Shammai and Rabbi Hillel had very different approaches to the Torah, yet they were best friends. They were best friends. We could learn so much from them. So I urge people to think. It ain't illegal yet, but they're working on it. Don't let your identity become your ideology. And always be an independent thinker. Don't allow someone to place you inside of a box. You're too unique for that. So, if you found this presentation helpful and informative, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. I always appreciate all the support that I am given. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Blade Talk. Be good to yourselves, be good to others, and until the next presentation, you all take care.